November 17th Board of Education meeting to order. I apologize for a few minutes past our start time. However, we had a special meeting prior to this at 5, so we've kind of been shuffling back and forth. So we'll move forward with our regular meeting. Mrs. Luton, please let the record show that all board members are present this evening with the exception of Jerry Lee. And I would like to ask Teresa Bledsoe to come forward and introduce our very special guest tonight. And
thank you, Dr. Frederick, and good evening, board members. It's my honor this evening to introduce you to Maya Nieto. Come on, Maya. She's a 5th grader at Cowden Elementary School, and she's accompanied by her father, Paul, and her principal, Cherie Norman, I think, is back here too. So we appreciate them being here to support Maya this evening. Maya was chosen to represent Cowden because she's an outstanding leader and a hardworking student who always has a smile on her face. And her principal says that Maya always strives to be her personal best, both in the classroom and on the court. So we thank Maya for being a good example to other students at Cowden. And now I ask that you rise while Maya leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Maya.
I had an opportunity to chat with Maya a few minutes before the board meeting, and you can tell immediately what a fine young lady she is and what a wonderful smile. We appreciate her father for being here with her, and you should be very proud. Wonderful young lady. So thank you.
This evening we also have the privilege of honoring 3 outstanding principals who've been chosen to represent Springfield to be recognized by the Missouri Association of Elementary School Principals at its annual conference in the spring. And I'd like to invite Dr. Jay Anderson to come forward and introduce you to these 3 principals.
So good evening to you. It's my honor to be here representing some wonderful, fantastic, and beautiful principals. They do amazing work. So the Missouri Association of Elementary, I can give you more superlatives if you'd like. So the Missouri has an opportunity to have its own association, as each state does, and the Missouri Association of Elementary School Principals is divided into 13 regions across our state. And fortunately, Springfield is large enough and has enough active members that we are our own region per se. And so it's a great honor to have a voice in Jefferson City and across the state as our principals do an amazing job leading elementary schools. And so we're here to honor some of them tonight, 3 of them specifically. And so I'm going to ask them to come up when I call their name so that you know who they are and read what their peers say about them. I can give you some great attributes of them, but I want you to know what their peers say about them as well. So first, let's honor Angie Valchev, if she'll come forward. Angie was so incredible for the Williams community, is now putting the same work and ethic and leadership style in place at Westport and McGregor Elementaries. She is friendly and approachable, and because she was an excellent teacher, she knows great instruction in the classroom. This is what her peers say about her. Ms. Valchev values person-centered relationships and makes meaningful personal connections with students and families. She is an advocate for putting systems in place that result in increased student engagement and high expectations. She assists the process of allowing the principal to focus on instructional needs of the building and of the system, making sure that she is taking care of management-related issues and discipline, which in turn supports teachers in maintaining a safe, nurturing, and learning environment. She's always available to facilitate a solution and have conversations with students and parents. She's an advocate for kids and brings a sense of humor to the workforce. On the screen is a picture of her with 2 kids. So there's a student on the left when it was Be Her Twin Day, and on the right is her son, Max. Please join me in congratulating Miss Valchev, who is also transitioning into the next semester as the intern principal at Bowerman Elementary. Miss Valchev. She asked if she gets to leave. The answer is no. She's going to stand here, and we're going to have Mr. Josh Holt come forward. Mr. Josh Holt has some big shoes to fill, and he's done it very well at Portland Elementary. His colleagues report that they often call Mr. Holt for ideas regarding instruction or discipline. He is collaborative and willing to share and support others. As an instructional leader in his school, he has made exceptional use of the district's learning management system, and expectations for his teachers are sky high. His diligence in the lunchroom actually saved a student's life. A quick reaction to that student with a choking hazard was averted, and it could have become a tragic situation. His colleagues make particular mention of his intelligence and dedication to the profession. On the screen, you'll see that he literally jumped out of a plane this past weekend, was that right? As part of a fundraiser for his school. I'm not sure what risk management said about that. I'm not sure we asked about that. Either way, and he is also a newlywed. He was married recently to Nicole Kimbrough, who is one of our principal as well, and so it's now Nicole Holt, and we wish the Holts and want to congratulate Josh for his leadership and honor him as the new exemplary principal for MAESP. Last but not least, we have Miss Jennifer Webb. Miss Jennifer Webb exemplifies what it means to be committed to her school, and that's why she is the nominee for a distinguished principal for the state of Missouri. Upon arriving at Williams Elementary, she discovered the only thing that could move her school forward would be to deeply change the culture. She implemented a PBIS model, called it Style, and what a difference that has made for her staff and students. Miss Webb loves kids. She's a learner and a leader. She just doesn't learn and lead, but she loves. She loves to learn, she loves to lead, and more importantly, she loves people. Whether she's dressed in purple, that is in writing, okay. But usually it's with a purple feather boa, riding a skateboard to celebrate children who have excelled, or loving children who need a little extra love because they ask for that love in the most unusual ways. She shares her expertise and colleagues she shares her expertise with other teachers and colleagues. And we celebrate Miss Webb because she loves, and her love is contagious. Please join me in congratulating and honoring Miss Jennifer Webb as a distinguished principal. It's my honor to support all of these 3 and work with them regularly. I'm proud of them and what they do for our district, and all 3 of these will be honored at our conference, the Missouri Association of Elementary School Spring Conference in March of 2016. Again, thank you for your support. Any questions or comments for them?
Of course, you can't get before us and someone not have a question or a comment. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? I mean, having visited your buildings, the work you do is amazing and wonderful, and your dedication to children is just terrific. But I would like to ask you, and I think, Bruce, do you have a question or a comment?
Just comment that, that job is extremely difficult. I didn't ever aspire to that position just based on that, and I know we're asking more and more of you. And we really do appreciate the quality of people, and you represent a lot of people up here that we have, so thank you.
I would just like to hear each one of you, just a little short, we're good at putting people on the spot. No, just a little short blurb about, what your school, what your students mean to you, because you do what you do every day. And I think you mentioned it with Jennifer because of the love of the kids. And sometimes we lose sight of that when there's so many other things that we hear about that schools are not doing or education is not doing for kids. So just a little something you share with us about your job, your love of kids, what you've learned that's exciting that helped you get where you are. So we'll start with Angie.
Well, I can tell you when actually this transition to McGregor Westport, July I was really down. In August it was really hard, and my mom was like, "You'll be fine." It just was all the meetings and stuff, and she said, as soon as those kids get in the building, you'll be like, I first didn't love my job. I was like, oh no, what am I doing? But as soon as I had kids and teachers in my office every day, I'm like, oh, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I think at first you don't want to lose sight of the kids, because when you leave the classroom, you don't have your kids every day. Well, I do. I have 500 at Westport and 300 at McGregor. And so it's just, the kids are what we focus on, and that's what gets us through every day.
Thank you. Josh?
I start off by saying that this honor wouldn't be possible without our kids, but also without the amazing teachers that we all have, because they really do the frontline work. And so none of this would be possible without them. So I appreciate them as much as I do the kids. But I think as many educators I've talked to, grew up in a home life where the only people I had to rely on were my teachers and people like that. And so that's pretty much how I grew up. And so every day I come to school, it's just knowing that I can be something to someone, be that smiling face. And believe it or not, I get more energy from my kids every day and look forward to seeing them when I'm having a bad day, because they do more for me than I can ever do for them. So that's really just what gets me going every day. So I appreciate them more than I can ever tell them. So.
I would piggyback on both of these fantastic leaders. I would also say these ladies and gentlemen in the back too, several principals showed up tonight just to support. We're a team that love kids and that love teachers, and it's that scaffold and that team never feeling alone and isolated that is powerful. And it's principals bringing up our new principals. They're the teachers in our classrooms right now, and they're leading those kiddos. But I did have a student today tell me, Ms. Webb, I figured out that I'm a preteen. He's in 5th grade. We're a little pretty on the preteen, but we may have seen that. But he said, I'm a preteen, but in a few years, I'll be a protein. And that's why we do it. I had just come out of a discipline situation, and that made my entire day. And that's just a perfect place to put it. They're learning, light bulbs are going off, and I've got proteins going like crazy. They're on their way. So it's all about leaning on each other and then loving teachers and kids and finding the joy in them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to come before us, and we love you and what you do. Okay, we're moving on to the approval of agenda. We're in the maybe not so the exciting part of our meeting, but very important. Is at this time we will approve our agenda for the evening. So do I have a motion to approve the Tuesday, November 17th Board of Education regular session agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Tim and a second by Annie. So at this time we do need to vote.
You guys good down
Yeah.
Got it?
We got it.
Thank you, Ms. Luton. Did you hear me, Parker? All right, good.
Okay, thank you. Voting is complete. We'll move on to our public comments. At this time, the board welcomes any comments from the audience about issues being discussed. And people sign up before, so we know. Ms. Luton, and we have any? We do not. Okay, no comments from the public at this time. We'll move on to our consent agenda items. And we have very talkative principals, and that's the way it goes. We're happy about that.
They never stop.
Love that background.
Yeah.
Yeah, send the heat out.
We will, at this time, the board We'll approve the consent agenda items, which includes approval of minutes, approval of contracts, agreements, and change orders, and approval of consent agenda personnel. Just prior to getting a motion to approve consent agenda items, I just want to make a quick comment in regard to our consent agenda. Is it our financial personnel? Personnel. We had a great presentation at our study session regarding early notification incentive for employees, and I think it's really important because I have had just a couple of questions, a couple of comments. That is not intended to be a stimulus to someone to retire. I know many years ago, I remember back in the day, so I guess I'll kind of show my age here, in which the district did provide a retirement bonus, but that is not the intention of this, and it is, I think it's awesome for our teachers to have this opportunity that will just notify us early regarding their retirement status, and I think it shows that we value those teachers, as well as we want to be agile in our ability to hire at the very beginning of that hiring season. And as a former science curriculum person in the district, I know that it was quite frustrating because our hiring was later in the year, and it was always difficult to get those top science teachers and those other areas in which teachers are more difficult to obtain, and we had to wait until everyone else had an opportunity to hire from that very small pool of some of the teachers in the high needs areas. So I just, as a former teacher and administrator in the district, I think this is an excellent something that we're offering to our teachers that just again shows that we value them, and I think it's awesome, a little bit of holiday money, but anyway. So if there's no other comments, I guess at this time we need to move forward, and I would ask for a motion that the board approves agenda items 3.01, 4.01, and 5.01.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion by Jill and a second by Annie, so we'll vote at this time.
Okay. I just want to be helpful. Let you know I'm paying attention. Can you hear me? Because I especially want to help you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to something we always look forward to, very exciting, is our treasurer's report.
Riveting once again. Good evening. This evening marks, again, we jumped back on our normal reporting process at the October meeting, and so the reports presented for you when we posted last week and for your approval this evening represent our standard information. I'll highlight for you, and this is also noted in the treasurer's highlights or items of interest, that our budget amendment is very slight, $3,000 with regard to revenue, and then no change in expenditures, so that's very slight. We did invest a tremendous amount of energy in realigning the budget, and we hope that we won't be bringing large changes to you, but we always deliver to you the best information we have at this point in time, so that will be ever changing, as is this large system. So our projected ending fund balance is continuing to stay the course as originally projected. We also would like to highlight for you that we're not anticipating needing to do a tax anticipation note. Recall that last year we went through the process. We did not end up drawing on it. This year we believe that we don't need to initiate the process either. So that would be of particular interest. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the information posted.
Comments? Anything? Okay. Again, I think each month these get a little bit better, and you make things a little bit easier for us to understand some of the reporting. So, so at this time, do we have a motion? Or did Annie, you have a comment?
I just wanted to say I'm really pleased to see we're almost at 17% still,
Yes.
and that we may not have to borrow. I'm not opposed to borrowing, short-term borrowing, but it's great if we don't have to. So thank you for keeping an eye on this. And I will make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Andy Bush. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? Tim Rosenberry? We have a second. So this time, we need to vote that the board approves the the November 17 Treasurer's Report as presented. Good. I say good. Very good, thank you. We'll move on to 7.01. This is the information reporting part of our board meeting that helps to keep the board updated on ongoing initiatives. And so we're going to hear about the iReady update.
Thank you very much. I'm looking at my team. Also very beautiful people. Last month I came to you and I presented our APR, which is really a 50,000-foot view of our school district. And I explained to you that it's significant in that it drives our accreditation, but it's insufficient in really driving day-to-day instruction or measuring the quality of our schools. Today we're going to drop that elevation down, and we're going to come into you with information regarding iReady, which is a measure we do internally 3 times a year, and it's data that we really make real-time decisions for instruction and measure growth. So tonight I present to you Jill Palmer and Allison Pilley, who will be presenting this information to you.
Good evening. Uh-oh. Bruce, maybe?
Help. You're good. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. So we're going to start to look at the data first to give you context for where we were last year to where we are this current year. And so what we're going to start with first is to look at all of our numbers from 2014-15. This is just a count of the students who took the assessment. You'll notice in grades 1 and 2, it's more than the rest of the grades, 3 through 8. The students represented in this are the students who had beginning, middle, and end of year scores for the entire school year. We made it optional for grades 3 through 8 last year because of the new assessments that came out from the state. And so our K2 students are the ones who had the most scores beginning, middle, and end. You'll notice kindergarten is not on this chart. The window is still open for kindergarten. We held it off until about October 14th just to get them acclimated to school, so it's not, welcome to school, here, sit at a computer and take a test. So their window is actually open until the end of the year, so they are not represented in this report, but they will be for middle and end.
When you said end of the year, you mean end of the calendar year?
End of the, right, in May last year. So we had about 9,000 students take both the reading and math assessments. This year you'll notice our numbers increased for each one for beginning of year. It is required that all students K through 8 take the assessment beginning, middle, and end. The end of year is not optional this year. It's our one consistent measure that we have in assessment to show growth in K through 8 because the state's changing every year. Our numbers are about 15,000 for our students, and again, kindergarten is not included in this. So as Dr. Dawson talked about, our purpose of iReady is to look at our gaps that students have and be able to fill in those gaps. So this is the movement of students that were on or above grade level for each one. The blue line is beginning of year, orange is middle, and the yellow is the end of year. Again, you'll notice these dropped off a little bit in math. It's the same consistent numbers that we're seeing for math this year that you saw at the last board meeting. So for 2015-16, this is where we're at right now. About 10% of our students are on grade level for what iReady has set as defining on grade level or above for math. And also for reading, you'll see our numbers at the beginning of the year are a little bit higher. Even for this year, we're about 2% over where we were last year. So we're still seeing a little bit of growth, even though we didn't see end of year scores from last year. And again, here's our beginning of year where we're at. So this chart will progress throughout the school year. Whenever we have middle of the year, we'll bring it back, and then at the end of the year as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
Okay, so Jill kind of went over the data, but what we want to talk about now, Jill, this is still you.
Oh, it's still me. Sorry. That's the
I
most
thought that
exciting
went
thing.
quick.
Okay, sorry. So these are the correlations. We used to be able to say if a student got this in performance series, they're predicted to get this score in MAP. We can't do that because the assessment's changing every year. And so we do have a high correlation. It's 0.84 for both math and reading. So our scores dropped a little bit in math for MAP. It also dropped in iReady. And so it's consistent for what we're seeing in both. Okay, now it's you.
So we wanted to kind of take this from the data level and actually talk about what it looks like at the classroom or the student level. So I'm going to talk very quickly, and then we have several wonderful teachers here to kind of share what they do with the data. So this is just a quick snapshot of one of the reports that's available in iReady. This is the instructional grouping profile that's available for reading and for math for all the teachers. And basically what it does is it takes your class of students and it puts it into different profiles or different groups based on some criteria that you can kind of see on the right-hand side of the screen. So this would help teachers or administrators group students according to ability so that they can really focus and target that instruction to help close some of those gaps for the students. And for the students in profile 4 and 5, those are kind of the on or above grade level students. So again, target those students and help them continue to move forward and grow. Another report is the student profile report. It does say Michaela all over this. This is my child's report. There were too many Michaelas to take out and still make it look okay. So, but what this does for every domain that we assess the students in for reading and for math, the teacher can see exactly what the child is able to do, and this is even for our lowest students. It says what they are able to do, which is a really positive note. And then it also gives next steps for instruction. This is just a screenshot of the top of this one. It's actually a pretty lengthy report, so it can help teachers, again, target and focus that instruction. So what we're gonna do now is we have yes?
Is that report available to parents or just for teachers?
It's available to teachers, but they're able to print it or send a PDF to parents if they'd like it.
Are they doing that?
Probably depends on the teachers, and it probably depends on the communication with the, do you want, I can do that for you.
No, I'm just,
Okay.
I find it interesting that I've
Yes.
never heard of or seen that.
Yeah, so it's probably used a little bit differently at every, with the different teachers, but yes, it is available for teachers to send to parents. You're welcome. Okay, so I would like to introduce 4 educators from Westport K-8. We have Leanne Patrick and Colleen Dorsey from Westport Elementary, and Rebecca Lutz and Alyssa Wicklund from Westport Middle School, and they're going to kind of go over with you what they do with the iReady data. So we'll start with elementary.
I do want to address that. You asked the comment if the parents were able to get that data, and many of our teachers do give that to them at parent-teacher conference. They have that available to them, the report, so the parents can interpret that data. I'm the literacy coach at Westport, and this is a picture of my intervention wall. And I just want to share with you a little bit on how I use iReady. At the beginning of the year, since every school now in the district is taking that test, I used that as a factor in placing our students' ability level. We used MAP score if they had it, their DRA or Fountas and Pinnell, their writing prompt, and their iReady score. And we did that to determine an overall level of proficiency for the student, because what we found was happening was that we would have our intervention wall, and if the teachers placed them just by their reading level, we would get their MAP score the next year, and a student that was reading at an advanced level was still scoring basic on the MAP. So we didn't feel that it was a true picture of the overall ability for the student. So this year, after meeting in team meetings with grade level teams, we decided to incorporate the iReady score and that other data along with it to get a better picture of where the students' ability levels actually were. So middle of the year when we do the iReady assessment again, that will be another factor, along with their current reading level, their current writing assessment. I did find that in last year's data, their iReady score did correlate with whether they were proficient, advanced on the map, basic on the map, that they did seem to correlate. The classroom teachers use it for a variety of reasons, but they can pull that instructional grouping profile that Allison talked about, and in looking at the students' needs, they can have flexible grouping. So if you have a certain pocket of students that need more instruction with vocabulary, they can target that vocabulary instruction in their mini lessons or in their small group lessons, reading lessons at the table. If you have a group of students that scored lower on interpreting informational text, they can pull more informational text and do that during their guided reading lessons. So they're strategically using that data to focus on the needs of the student. Along with iReady, in particular, the elementary school teachers use lots of data. They do running records, their text level graphs. They take lots of information to get a whole picture of the needs of that student, so it's not a one and done. You can read a text level 50, you're advanced, that kind of thing. Matt.
I'm Colleen Dorsey, the numeracy interventionist at Westport, and I use it for a variety of reasons. My main purpose is to begin our year to find those students who are in need of intervention. Sometimes we use intervention as the students that have that greatest need, but we also are now using intervention for those students that we see that are almost to our proficient level and just need a little extra boost to help get them over that hump. And so it's one piece of many pieces as they use in reading to fulfill that criteria sheet that then we kind of disaggregate and decide who's going to be in those groupings that I get to serve every day. And then my other role is that as a lead learner in the building, we are also now doing some new things this year. We have used our para support staff to give instruction in the classroom. And so currently we are using the iReady data is where we started, and then we are now using Dreambox for the math portion if they're K2, or 3-5 we're using Alex. And we are fine-tuning lessons that those paras are going into, and they're teaching something that is just in time for those kids. We're also doing that in reading as well. And then we come back after they've done it for a period of time, and we evaluate that data again, and we decide if that we need to continue with that, or if we need to do some more scaffolding, or if the students are ready to move on. So we're continually working with our paras and making sure that they are doing just-in-time activities and lessons for our students in the classroom, and that they also know where their students are at, and we're giving that information to our teachers. We're also now using it with our classroom teachers as part of our SAP plan, in that they are intentionally looking at the students that we have identified, and they are going to be teaching those small groups again during either reading time, during their guided reading, or during guided math. And then they will be getting that data on what to teach and how to teach from the Dreambox or Alex. And it is correlating right now with the iReady to the point that if I pull something off of Dreambox, I go right back to that iReady piece and say, is that still something they need, or is it something that's fallen off of that chart? Our Dreambox and Alex are very timely. Whatever we get today is what they have just learned or what they have just mastered, where the iReady is from August and September. And so sometimes our students have learned things throughout the year and they don't need it. But if those things are no longer on there, then we don't address those iReady statements, that those MIGs or the GLEs that they need, standards. The other way that we're using is that, there's a video I think here, is collaboration with teachers. I am getting an opportunity right now to work and support a teacher in our building.
That's gonna play.
Okay. Do you want to see that first?
Sorry. Talk.
Okay. I am getting to push into the classroom as an interventionist in 2 of our classrooms this year, as opposed to just pulling those students out and going to a private space to work. And in that also means that they're, yes? We talked about as a leadership team what we might want to see in our classrooms in the future with regards to our student work, with regards to teacher collaboration, and along with setting up those math workshops and the guided math that we're trying to do in our building. And so then we intentionally sought out teachers that were willing to be a participant rather than saying, you have to do this, somebody that's ready to be on board, because if it's their idea, they're more willing to take those steps with us. And so the teachers we chose were volunteers, as well as they had students in their room that had need that I would be working with based on the criteria sheet that we created. So from there, I meet once a week or once every other week with those teachers, and we collaborate on those students initially that I serve. But it is kind of rolled into, I have this other need. I have these other students in my room that need help. How do I help these students? So what I'm finding is that whether it started as a small group that are being served, now that entire class is being served by the teacher looking at the data and wanting to know what to do for all of her students rather than just the few that we're doing. And so the video that you're going to watch is a goal setting example that I was modeling for her, so that she can then begin to model that and use that with all of our students. And the purpose of that is to have our students know where they're learning, what they need to learn, and where they need to go. And then after they have that opportunity to have those lessons with the teacher, then they will go back and look at their data, and then they will begin to chart that data. And they're doing that in reading as well in other areas. So it's very intentional in making sure that our students know what they're doing, where they need to go, and how they're going to get there. So we'll let you watch the video. The goal for something that you can work towards to get towards the middle of it. Yeah. So if you look at your assessment here, your score was 402, okay? Ooh, and then if we look at a graph, look where you're at. You start here, and we want you to get all the way up here, okay? So we want you to get to about 418, and that means we're gonna do some work. So Mrs. Dorsey and Mrs. McBroom have been talking, and we've decided that some of the things that we have listed here for you, we're going to work on. Like it says, we're going to count by tens to 100. It says you can count forward by one, so we're going to do that. So let's look at your goal sheet. This says that based on your test, that one of your goals can be count from and say the number after 1 to 100. Do you think you can work on that? Okay, so let's set that one. And then we have to write a statement that says, I will be able to count from 1 to 100. Would you be willing to practice at stations that Mrs. McBroom gives you? Would you be able to work at home on these if we needed to send stuff home or wanted to send stuff home? Okay, you don't have to do all of them. How about would you use the dream box on the computer in your classroom? Or at home? Okay, but in the school you would? Okay. All right, so I will know I met my goal when I can count from 1 to 100. Okay, and so now would you sign that? Can you sign your name there? Put your name right there. We have not yet met with the student to go over those goals, and the teacher is going to be working on that part with him and making sure and that he understands what his goal is. And the idea is that eventually that he will be able to guide his own learning, and she will give like 2 to 3 options that he can choose from that then he says, I want to learn this next. So it's just small steps with our teachers to instruct them on how to be intentional with their teaching with the students and reach all of them at the point where they're at.
What grade was that young man?
First grade.
Okay.
Good. Can I go back to the numbers, and I don't know if it's Allison's or who? Are we? Did that chart really say that only 10% of the students
are on grade level
are
right
on
now at the
grade
beginning of
level
the year?
in
That
math?
is correct.
When they enter that grade?
When they,
Right. So the way that the goal is set, we have a goal for the end of the students, for the end of the year for the students. Right now, only 10% are meeting for the end of the year. It's not uncommon to see this. It's the same thing, same trend that we saw with Performance Series 2, because it's the goal that you want to be by the end of the year. How many have met that goal right now?
oh, okay.
It's not beginning of year. If we would have ran this for trends that we see from the beginning of year, from the research that's done from iReady, the chart would look very different. The bar would be much higher. But we don't set it that way. We want to see where the kids are compared to the end of the year goal.
Can you move that to your math one?
Yes.
So I want to make sure I understood you correctly.
Yes.
That's not what it was. It's not as optimistic, if I remember correctly, when you get to 7th and 8th
The math
grade.
standards are.
Can you talk to me about that?
Yes,
7th
the
and 8th
math
grade?
standards are more difficult. And this is the same trend that we saw across the state. Whenever we got our MAP scores back, it was, for us, it was much lower than what we had expected. Whoa.
Why?
Sorry.
Why?
The standards are a lot different with that because now they are Missouri Learning Standards, and it's very, very different than what we had in Performance Series.
So are you telling me not to be terribly concerned about that?
I'm telling you, don't be terribly concerned because with Allison and her team and our teachers that we have, with iReady, what they're doing is using this in small group instruction, and then Dreambox and Alex is filling in those gaps for those students. So we are very hopeful as a team that we're going to see a lot bigger jump than what we saw last year because it's a lot more concise on what we're doing for interventions for students.
We're
You want to
also
talk about
really having to work with we're really focusing on working with teachers on teaching math in a different way, using more of those manipulatives so they can build a conceptual understanding and not just that rote memorization. So teachers are having to teach math differently than they have in the past. Getting an accurate or a on grade level score isn't, you can't just do like the basic math problems. You really have to be able to apply it. So we're having to work with our teachers, and teachers are having to work with students on applying that knowledge to lots of different problems that they haven't seen before. So it's just with that different set of standards, those more rigorous standards, it's just a higher expectation that we have to have, and having to work to get there.
And if I heard you correctly, that lower bar for 7th and 8th grade is consistent statewide. It's not like we have this
Not for
anomaly.
iReady, for the MAP, and this is correlated to the MAP, so
I heard
we're
someone say
seeing
that.
that, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Before
So-
you move on, I want to have a couple questions of our teachers that were here. They left the stage before I
We
came.
have two more. The middle school teachers are going to come up and share
Okay.
a little bit next.
I just have a specific question, and I'm so sorry I didn't write down your name. I think
Pauline Dorsey.
Pauline. I knew that, but okay.
You have
So
a lot of people in front of you.
your position at Westport, and what did you say it is?
I'm the numeracy interventionist.
Excuse me. And so is that a Title I?
Yes, it's a Title I position. My main focus is to work with students, but there's a need in our building for other things as well. And being a teacher that loves to help others and to help our students ultimately, I can't sit back and just say, there's nothing else on my plate. So I've been asked if I can help with some things, and so I'm willing to do that because that's what's best for our kids.
So you've kind of taken on just the interventionist role, even outside your content.
Yes.
So would your position now, was that like math coach from days gone by?
No. The intention of that, but my position is that I am to work with students. And so the other things that we're doing intentionally with our other staff members, I do on off hours when I'm not in class, in school. So I take my time after school and help prepare those lessons for our paras. And then my plan time that I have is built in as a collaborative plan time so that I can collaborate with teachers on like the students that we work with, or I can collaborate with paras on the students that we're working with. So during that collaborative plan time is when then I present with our teachers and with our paras to help them give that extra support that they need.
And I think what's very important to me is that what you've described and what you do, how critical that is Title I dollars. And with that, you doing that, if our Title I dollars are spent all in one particular direction, then you wouldn't be in that building. You would not be there. So it's very important that as we look at our Title I dollar expenditure, that we continue to have those individuals in place in our Title I buildings that can continue to intervene with our students, our struggling students' grades.
Kindergarten through fifth. And we have it also in our building for 6th through 8th. We also have math interventionists in Westport. We're blessed to have those as well.
And you were a classroom teacher. both of you, and what are in your position?
I'm the elementary literacy coach.
So you're also a Title I,
Yes, ma'am.
Title I funded position. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, all right. So now we'll have Rebecca, who teaches math, and Alyssa, who teaches ELA, come up and talk a little bit.
Hello, I teach math, 6th grade, and I use iReady a lot at the beginning of the year. This year I was lucky enough to kind of structure my class with it, and we have a Title I teacher who pushes into 3 of my classes. So we pick students that really needed a lot of help to be in those classes with 2 teachers, and then she pulls out the kids and works on different strands that they need help with. And we can look at the iReady and see maybe they're low in measurement or whatever, so she takes them and works on a lesson on that sometimes too. We have, during parent-teacher conferences, we always give those to the parents. We also this year sent them home on the grade cards. Not a big detailed thing, but it showed their grade level and then each strand how they did on it. I really like on iReady, they're on the website, I use it for correlation on grade level expectations. They have every grade, so I can see if in 6th grade, if it's a new thing that I'm teaching that they haven't been showed yet in 5th grade, I'll have an asterisk, so then I know to spend more time on that. So there are also different things on the iReady site that helps me as a teacher plan my lessons. Also, we, being 6th grade, we get kids from all different elementaries. They not only come from Westport, we get 3 or 4 others. So iReady is the first thing that I can kind of really dig my heels in and start some instruction for.
Good evening. I'm Alyssa Wicklund and I teach reading. At the beginning of the year, I use the iReady data to develop seating charts for my class. So I put the students in high, medium, low, and low groupings, and I can usually look out across the classroom and know which students are who, so I can go to the ones that are the lowest. I use iReady data for reading groups and small group instruction, and Ms. Lutz said that we use the iReady resources. I can pull up a certain topic and see another way to teach it. The reports are very detailed, and that's something that I like versus the performance series. We use them in parent-teacher conferences. When I confer with students during independent reading, I will show them their scores, and they're very interested to see what they scored on the test immediately afterwards. The reading portion splits it up into vocabulary, comprehension of informational text, and comprehension of literature. Those are just some of the strands. And I usually talk to the students about correlations between their reading interests and their level. For example, I have a student this year, at the beginning of the year, she scored level 8 in informational text, but her overall iReady score was placed in middle 6th grade. So I asked her feelings toward reading informational text, and she concurred that she did enjoy it more, and that was evident by her testing. We make goals before each assessment, and we will have those discussions starting the first week of December before we take our test. Thank you.
Okay, just to finish up, and I don't want to make everyone, Yeah. Oh, I really escaped. We literally have 1 slide left, so. Okay. So just to wrap up, after you heard what the teachers were talking about, they have a really strong focus on data, which is so important, getting to know the academic side of the child. We just wanted to kind of bring up that while the academic side of the child is very important, and it's and this data helps with that, we obviously want to continue to focus on the child as a whole and meeting all of their needs, not just their academic needs. And we feel like by using iReady data and really having that intentional focus, teachers will be able to gain more time with students to make their learning, engaging, relevant, and personal, and really not just focus all the time on reading and math, be able to strategically focus on that, but then be able to pull away and work on stuff that is engaging for them as well. So with that, do you all have any questions?
Yeah, we've been asking as, I hope that's been okay as we move along, because it's fresh to us. So, and I guess, I think I understand, so that if I'm a 7th grade teacher, then I have access to look back at my 7th graders' scores in 6th grade. So, is that correct? So I know what to expect in terms of their progress in learning, or the learning goals. So, and then you can have that information available then, like I think you mentioned, you make your seating charts based on, strategically placing your students in classroom, which is very important and is helpful. So I think that's good. The other thing is, as a board member, we've put a tremendous amount of money into iReady and pieces and parts of that. and I'm very delighted to get this report and know that this is happening consistently, beginning, middle, and end of the year. So are all schools now, no one has a waiver. Everyone is taking this, grades 1st through
kindergarten
through 8. And this will be in addition to the new kindergarten readiness assessment?
So kindergartners also take, because they test so late, they also take the DRA, which is going to assess their reading level. And if they're not ready for that assessment, there's another one that kind of tells some of their strengths. Okay, so and then they also have a brief math one as well.
And I know that's getting off the subject to talk about the new kindergarten readiness assessment, but anyway, so thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the information. And thank you for coming and sharing. There we go. I hope those devices are for us. Oh, she only has 3. I bet we don't get them.
Those are the hot spots. I'm just saying.
Oh, I could use one of those. I have hotspots like this big. Yeah. Been on the beard. Oh, sorry. I'm so intrigued by the t-shirts and the devices in your hand that I'm a little lost here. Okay, well, we're moving on now to our Ignite pilot update. And Dr. Hackenworth?
Good evening. It's my pleasure to bring you yet another Ignite update. I'm joined tonight by my leadership team, Becky Ash, Nicole Lemon, and Bruce Douglas, along with a host of other friends of ours from Hillcrest High School. Tonight we come before you to give you just a brief status update as far as our deployment goes, but then to talk to you just a little bit about the process that we recently went through in selecting our high school devices and internet access solutions that we're currently working through with the help of our friends from Hillcrest. So just a quick update for you. To this point, we have deployed about 3,500 student devices across the system. Maybe you've seen some videos here and there of some of those deployments. They're great fun. We have a couple more left, both at Hickory, Hillcrest, and Boyd. So if you have some free time in your schedule, come out and join us for those deployments. We're getting pretty good at them so that they go quickly. So be there on time if you do come out to see us. But it's great to see those students get those devices. But I want to really kind of get into the heart of the presentation tonight. Dr. Lemon's going to come up and walk you through this process. And then the best part of it, you'll get to hear from some students and some teachers about this process.
All right, so I'm excited to talk about Hillcrest. First, I want anybody who's here representing Hillcrest to raise your hand, because there's several people who came out tonight. So I thank them for being here. Yes. So originally our plan was to deploy 60 Chromebooks, but Gary Moore has a heart for kids, and he said, I have 66 kids who need Chromebooks, and we said, sure, Gary, you can have 6 more. So when we were talking with school districts around the country and locally, when they tested devices, we heard a lot of feedback about that process from them. What those districts said is go with one device, really test that device, and pivot if you have to. So don't start a pilot knowing you're going to show them 2 devices. Really just dig into one and have a plan if you need to. So that was the approach we took. We had a process of focus groups, and I know you've seen a video on that. It was a really cool experience to be part of the focus group over 4 different weeks. And then we also had teachers who are model classroom teachers that we were just constantly in communication with. How's it working? How's it going? And that kind of thing. So this was our timeline. We started September 8th with deploying those 66 Chromebooks, and then we had focus groups planned. That pivot point was halfway through. So we knew if we were hearing from students the Chromebook is not working, then we had a device ready to go that was at a different price point that we would, slide in and move to. It became really evident by that second focus group that the students absolutely love them, and you'll hear that tonight. They like how lightweight they are, they like how fast they are, they like how easy they are to use. So we did not pivot. We stayed with the Chromebooks and carried that straight through to the focus group, and you'll see our data around that process. So it takes a big crew to run 4 weeks of focus groups and a lot of time. So I know last time we were in front of you, we talked about our project teams, and we absolutely couldn't do it without the Hillcrest project team. So you'll see people on the screen from professional learning and curriculum. But I want to point out 2 people I'm going to ask to stand for a second, and that's Kelly and Mark. So Kelly works in our library. She's one of our information integration specialists, and Mark is our IT on staff there. They were the boots on the ground for us. So every day, solving problems, helping kids, troubleshooting. So I just wanted to recognize them publicly because I really appreciate it. So thank you to them. And then Gary Moore, their principal, has been instrumental in just, I will use the word flexibility. So Gary is a definition of flexibility and allowing us to come in and work with kids. So thank you to Gary as well. So this is just a Wordle of all the feedback that we gain from students. And if you remember the way Wordles work, the bigger the word, the more we're hearing it. So Canvas came out, the students use it a ton, and they have a lot to say about the learning management system and what they like about it. They talk a lot about Google and their Google Drives and their Google Apps and those kind of things. You'll notice the word work and works. That's one thing we heard over and over again. Dr. Lemon, it just works. So that's what we want it to do. We want it to work, and it works. You'll notice the word time. We hear a lot about how much it saves time, and you'll hear that from students tonight. And then home use. It's a big deal to be a senior in high school and finally have your own device that you get to take home with you. So that was a huge piece that came out. You'll notice the word YouTube access and blocked also shows up on there. So we are currently really listening to our students about our filtering process. So typically as a school district, we've blocked and been pretty strict on our blocking. And then there's that pendulum the other way of no blocking at all. So what's the right balance? And really listening to our students through the focus groups and trying to find that right opening where they're still safe, but they can get to the access that they need. So this was our overall feedback. I feel great standing in front of you saying that the Chromebook is the right device. There was a quote on one of the surveys, I don't know why you wouldn't go with a Chromebook. So huge numbers of satisfaction rates specifically from high school students. So we feel great about these devices. The other nice thing is there will be a continuum of our district. So 3-12, every kid will have the same device. So as they move up through the system, they're gonna get really, really good at their Chromebooks. So I'm going to bring up 2 people just to talk specifically around the focus groups. So Mrs. Bryant, Jen Bryant will start, and she's a science teacher at Hillcrest. She has been a science teacher for 11 years, and she was one of our model classroom teachers. So she's gonna talk first. And then Kylie Wilson is a senior, and she's just gonna talk about being part of the process and what that meant for her. So we'll start with Mrs. Bryant.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you for letting us have a voice in this conversation in the regards to deciding which technology we're getting and all of that. The first thing I noticed with the Chromebooks was the connection. The connection with me with my students. I was able to connect with kids that decided to go on a mission trip for a month, and I could send them their assignments and all of that. I had a kid who was out with a broken femur, so I was able to keep them up to date. But not only that, but students connecting to students. I had a kid that was out sick for the day, and he actually asked to be conferenced in with his group so he could work with them that day. So he didn't lose a single moment of instruction that day. The next thing I noticed was research. Super easy to do research. I don't have to move my kids to a computer lab. I don't have to take them to the library. So research is, it's easy. So I noticed that right off the bat. Collaboration. Students are able to collaborate on a much higher level. I can collaborate with them. I can create a document, and we can share it with the entire class, and they can all get on there. Of course, I have to be very careful, but because high school students have a tendency to be high school students sometimes, right? But it's great because they can they can at the same time edit words. They can take a document, and there's all these new apps. Every week we're getting so much instruction into, have you tried this app? Have you tried this app? And so we're getting all these really cool things that we can integrate into our classroom. It's more trying to keep up and be able to use all this because there's so much out there right now. Also, I was going to say that kids are able to create things, new ways of looking at things. I mean, they can still do the normal, they could make a poster if they wanted to, but they can also create videos. They could put together something, and actually I've had students go and present it to people in the community. So like you can bring in the outside world or take them to the outside world using this, which is huge. I'm a science teacher, so I have had several teachers from other schools that aren't implementing this quite yet ask me questions about, there's lots of probes and sensors that the district has spent thousands of dollars on in the science classrooms around the district. And while you can't load them on a CD, you can actually, there are free apps that allow you to be able to run those probes. So just FYI, because you're going to get that question. But in conclusion, because I'm trying to keep this short, I was going to talk about virtual labs. Virtual labs out there. I have students do virtual labs right off the bat because I have some labs that are really expensive, and so it increases their understanding. They're able to do these labs. So when they get in the lab using this equipment, not only do they understand what they're doing, but they don't have as many mistakes when they're doing it, which I know mistakes are good sometimes, but sometimes they're not. But I just wanted to say that I really think it's an awesome thing. I've seen awesome things with my kids, and they're learning, and they're doing all sorts of neat projects, and I'm all for the Chromebooks.
I love the Chromebooks. I'm very appreciative that we were picked as one of the schools to start it, and I was very appreciative to be able to start it for my school because I like to find out some problems that we can also find solutions before the mass of the student body has the problems. We can help them out because I've actually talked to my students about, because I'm in an English class and they were talking, what's happening with this? And I was like, wait, I know how to fix this problem because I used the Chromebook before them. And I also love it because I have a cousin and a brother that lives with me, and we had to share one computer at home, and it was such a hassle all the time because I would have to say, hey, is it my turn? I need to write this essay. I need to do this project. And I was also in the E-Factory last year, and so I had a lot of online things to do, and I had a lot of assignments to do, and I'd have to share the computer with them, and it was a big hassle. And so this year, whenever I got to have my Chromebook, I could go home and not have to worry about what time I need to use it, if my brother needs to use it as well, because it's mine and I don't have to share it. I'm not trying to be all stingy or anything, but but it's a lot easier to do my assignments. And I also can do assignments on my free time. I'm an office worker, and during the times where they don't have a pass or anything, I'll actually be reading my book and doing my questions on my assignments in my English class. And also in the classroom, I had my English. I'm doing a lot of English. We were doing a PowerPoint during this class, and we were using Google Drive, and I was able to edit it at the same time he was editing it. And I remember in the past about the PowerPoint, we would have to it was a big hassle, and being able to do that. And then you also have comments and everything on there, so we can talk when we're at home. We can edit it at the same time while we're at home, and it just makes things a lot easier, and yeah, it's just a lot easier. Thank you.
Hang on just one second in case we have any questions. Anyone on the board have questions? I don't think the aspect of sharing with siblings is something really considered.
I know what she means.
Yeah, and those of us that
I
have had siblings understand that sharing piece, but that's something that it brings a new thought to each student having their own device. So thank you for what you had to say. Jen, sounds excellent. Makes me want to be back in the classroom.
Come on in.
So thank you for your presentation. Anyone, anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
I'll just say that's going to be a tough act to follow there, but I'll do my best. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about, again, this idea of hierarchy of digital needs. So we talked about this in May, thinking about what does it really take for technology to really support instruction that's engaging, relevant, and personalized. And this is what we presented in May around, we have to first have that access layer, both to a device, but also we feel to the internet. And once we have that access, then we can really start to build up to this idea of an engaging, relevant, personalized learning environment. So from our Bright Bites survey at the end of September, we pulled this metric out. 87% of our students have internet access at home. What that really means is that we have about 2,400 students, grades 3 through 12, that don't have that internet access at home. And we know that's just a huge gap that we really need to work to address. And thinking about what that means specifically for Hillcrest, means that we have about 220 students that don't have internet access at home. So for the pilot, the way that we try to address this gap in access are through these Khajiit hotspots. And we gave, and Nicole's going to hand these out real quick so you can get an idea of what it looks like and how the students can tote that around with them. The first thing we tell students is that you really don't need this at school because we have internet at school for you. So we really want you to take these home, be able to use them when you're out and about, just in your daily lives. So we provided these to 20 students. There's about 500 megs per day, which works out to be about a 15 gig data plan if you've worked with Verizon or anyone like that. So we've seen students ranging from just getting their homework done and just using a small portion of that data plan to students that are maxing it out every single day, trying to really grow and explore in different ways. These have filtering built directly into the device. So these are SEPA compliant filtering. It also means that they're probably overly filtered from what our students are telling us. So off of the Wordle and off of the feedback we received, we're working with Khajiit to try and find ways to balance that and ensure that our students are able to explore and find creative things that they're passionate about, not just what we deem as educationally appropriate. So we want to make sure they're safe, but we also want to make sure that they're able to grow and find their passion. And one of the big things that we were just talking about with siblings is if we give this to a Hillcrest student that also has a sister at Reed or a brother at Bowerman, then at that household with that device, there's additional students that are being served. So we're really trying to focus on how can we get the most bang for a buck here. So if we're providing this to one student that has 3 siblings, now we're starting to hit more people.
So that's theoretical, right? Because I'm picturing at my house, like I don't see my daughter saying, sure, here, borrow my new device. Like I don't see that happening. Are you like being theoretical in that they would share, or are you trying
to? Certainly hope.
Okay, because I don't see it, but okay.
Hotspot.
Well, one
piece here. What I'm saying is you're thinking they might, but you're not like incentivizing that, right?
Right, we're early in on this process. So the great thing about this is it just turns on the signal. You're not having to physically have that piece right with you. So the signal on that will provide internet access for a room.
So if they had another device, then they could use it.
Right. So we've got that kind of 2-step process here. At first we have to provide the device, which is now the Chromebook. This other gap that we see is that internet access, and that's what we're hoping to achieve with this.
Thank you.
And we're definitely going to have those conversations. So we're figuring out what the process for getting these out to families really will look like. So that's still part of our to be determined.
And there's a monthly cost.
Right. So we're looking at different options here. This is around $40 a month. And we're communicating with different options around what that looks like before we come back with a
Bruce, approximately how many people in a household can log on, can utilize a hotspot at one time?
So that has a hard cap of 8 devices.
8, okay.
Yeah, and we've had 4 or 5 on as we've tested it and played with it.
Yes, all of us could.
Okay, they're starting to think about themselves, Bruce. Get them back focused.
So when the board retreat comes around, then you can actually go outside. So that's where we're at on how we provide internet access at home. We did it through this pilot. We're still working around gathering information to ensure that we can affect as many students as possible, because we know that there's a large gap there. And Hillcrest alone, we're serving 20 right now. We've got another 200 to go before we've really bridged that gap. So how we get there is something we're actively pursuing, and we wanted to bring that forward to you.
Because there's more than one option?
Yeah, this is one option. So there's multiple other options with grants, through other vendors as well.
Because it occurs to me that's expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
$40 per month is, once we add that up over multiple people, we have to figure out how we budget for that and make sure that it's sustainable as well. So that's why we're trying to gather as much information as possible. Yeah. All right, so the next piece, we were able to go out and speak with some students and speak with some parents around what providing this at home really means to them. And we're gonna hope that we don't have any buffering tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and get this started for you.
I'd say on daily, almost all of my homework's going to be digital, and almost all the time I've got to use the internet to complete it.
I talked to my mom about getting Wi-Fi because I heard we were getting the Chromebooks, and she said that it would cost way too much money. So I live out north by Fair Grove, so we do not have internet, period.
I work 5 days a week, like 5 to midnight. That's generally all my weekdays, and sometimes I get lucky and I have Wednesday off. Generally, that lucky Wednesday or on those weekends, I have to make plans with like my teachers so I can find time to go to the library and get my homework done.
Some places in Springfield, most families here don't have internet, especially in the low-income areas. So the family doesn't have internet, but the school's moving over to laptops and internet and homework. How's that kid supposed to do their homework if they don't have internet at home?
And when that started happening, it was getting really difficult.
Because a lot of our teachers are using Campus now, and if you didn't have a hotspot, I couldn't really do all my homework for them.
Before I had the hotspot in the Chromebook, I had to go to the lab or the library to do my homework online.
And then I ended up getting my laptop and my hotspot chance. I was able to do it at home, like before I ended up going to work, so I could get my stuff done partially then, and then when I got home I could get it done, and it was a lot easier than having to go all the way to the library.
I can do my assignments a lot easier now that I have the hotspot anywhere I want, on the go, at home, anytime.
I think the Khajiit hotspot is paving the way for everyone to have internet available to them.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the future.
So for the school to provide a mobile hotspot, especially for students who don't have internet at home, I think it's a good idea.
So we actually have one student who I'm going to say is brave tonight, and is going to stand up and talk about how he needs internet and what a difference that this program has made for him. So Zach is here, and Zach's going to share his story.
Hi, I'm Zach.
Hi.
I don't really know where to start because I have like anxiety with crowds and people. So
we can ask some of them to leave. I've been dying to.
that might actually help. I don't know. It's okay. The program that they have let us be a part of has really helped me a lot because not only do I not have internet at home or access to internet, I'm also an independent student and currently living with a roommate. So it was sort of hard to like keep a hold of everything school related and work related. And then when my teacher, Miss Ross, not Miss Ross, Miss Jordan, sorry, Miss Jordan, brought to our attention that we were going to be piloting the Chromebooks, that like I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. I want to see what that's about. It has helped a lot with online assignments and pertaining to mainly Mrs. Jordan's class. And if it wasn't for the Chromebooks, I don't think I would be passing that class. So I do appreciate it that I, as well as 60 other students, were allowed to use the Chromebooks, yeah. Along with the video, I heard that it is the future for schooling. I strongly agree with that because for students like me and the ones on the videos that don't have internet, it's incredibly hard to keep up with school assignments and school activities, or in the classroom activities at least. But
one thing you should know about Zach too is
Yeah.
he works a 40-hour-a-week job to support himself. So this has made a huge difference for him. So we had conversation about going to grandma's house to try to get internet, and what a difference that little blue box makes.
yeah, being able to bring that to work and actually access it was a lot of help, especially on break. I don't know about that, but that was I don't know if you guys know about McDonald's Wi-Fi, but it's not the best.
Good to know.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about it for now.
So do you have any questions for Zach before we turn it over for just general questions?
How far along are you in school, Zach?
I'm in 12th grade.
Excuse me?
12th grade.
12th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
If things go as planned, I'll be graduating in December. So.
Congratulations. Keep going.
Yeah.
Well done.
Any other questions? I think when some of us can get our emotions in place here, very inspiring for us, and there may be more than one of us at this board table that could have been in the same situation in terms of having access to some of the technology. So it strikes a very special
And this is why we're doing it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's great. We appreciate your courage to get up and talk to us. Thank you. And best wishes to you.
You did good.
So while we get our emotions in check, just a couple of things. We will deploy Hillcrest January 4th. I encourage you to be there and see that day. We will start at 8 a.m. and we will complete quickly, but we're also, as Bruce mentioned, continuing to investigate options with Wi-Fi and what we can do for kids regarding access. So any questions you have for the team tonight?
I just say thank you for your leadership and your commitment and your enthusiasm on this very important step that you're taking. Thank you for everything you do.
What time on the 4th?
So we will start probably around 8:15. I'll confirm that in a board update on a Friday before.
I'll put it on this 8 so we're not late.
Good, because we will go fast. But for example, we deployed 620 devices that read in 45 minutes. So if you're late, you'll miss it. So.
Okay.
All right. Anything else regarding tonight? Okay.
Very impressive. We're overwhelmed emotionally. Thank you. Okay, moving on to board policy revisions, and I don't think we have any. We do not have a board policy revision at this time this evening. So moving on to new business. Thank you all for coming, and have a safe evening. Contracts, bids, and change orders. Ms. Embry.
Hello.
How do you like following that?
I'm crying, just so you know.
Oh my gosh.
I know, but I mean, I have the opportunity regularly to go in and out of our school buildings and be reminded of why we do the work we do. And I know you enjoy that as well, but it's certainly touching when you listen to a student bring it home for the difference it makes in his life. So on that thread, making a difference in the lives of children, we heard this evening from some of our special instructors about Dreambox and how that provides data that helps us really get at the root of the help that some of our kids need. And so we are presenting a couple of items for you this evening, and one of those is the Dreambox software, expanding that usage not only from K through 2 grades, but also for grades 3 through 5. And this would empower a pilot to take place that would provide additional service for students. The big difference, and this is indicated in the posting, is that it provides virtual manipulatives. So even kids who can't or who aren't reading at a level that would equip them for success in taking these tests, they can take the tests very easily. So that's what it's all about. The other item is a change order. It's a few items added together. This is relative to the Sunshine Office building, work that we needed to do to get completion on that. And that is, I should note with both of these items, they are budgeted within our current budget structure, so there would be no budget amendments brought forward with either of these. And the reason we're presenting this as a new business item this evening is because in December we have one meeting, December 8th, and these were already on our radar, so we wanted to provide them to you as a first read. So if from this point through December 8th you have any questions, feel free to contact me and we will get answers for you.
Having reviewed these or read over them? Okay, so we have until December 8th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to presentation on our school calendar.
Dr. Anderson will bring us an update.
Good evening again. I am bringing you the product of the process up to this point in setting the 2016-17 school calendar, and also going to share 2017-18 and 2018-19 skeletons of those calendars and the reason why we put those out as much as we can. So just to share a little bit about the process and parameters and try to be as brief as possible around those. This year, instead of a large group process of bringing everybody and their mother and their brother in the same room to build that calendar, we decided to create some more intimate settings and have some conversations one-on-one or one with small groups. Represented groups included student, parent, teachers, principals, and district representatives. The opportunities and scenarios were compared and contrasted, looking for best learning opportunities to meet the needs of students, teachers and staff, and parents. Considerations include winter vacation, protected spring break, observed holidays, paid holidays, other learning organizations, and surrounding and comparable school districts. 2 options have been developed thus far, and each of the calendars being considered that I will share with you have 175 student learning days, 172 student contact days, 185 teacher contract days, with 3 of those days being paid holidays. Before you, you have calendar option A, as you'll see at the top, the little A in the parentheses, and again, this is draft. Option A is very similar to this year's calendar. Highlights of changes include a longer parent-teacher conference window. Trying to fit that into 1 week is sometimes tough to do for both teachers as well for parents, and so we wanted to give a little bit leeway. And so you will see, if you find the month of October, we end October 14th, the first quarter. The 17th has a black box and a green triangle in it to signify that's a teacher work day. And then we start second quarter on the 18th. A week after that, on October 24th, is when we'll start that window opening, and they'll have the week of October 24th, and then the following week, the first full week of November, to complete those conferences. So that's one specific change for the calendar. The second is the spring break. So if you look over to the month of March, in the past few years, we've had a pretty early spring break falling around the second week of March, and that's pretty early sometimes. And in talking to some of our other institutions that we like to compare ourselves to, as well as we knew that we had the shortest number of student learning days in that third quarter, we wanted to flip-flop that with fourth quarter, which was generally longer, and so we were able to push back our spring break for 1 week and get more learning days in third quarter, a little shorter on the fourth quarter. Each of those quarters that we have between 42 and 45 days, and you can see that in the bottom right-hand corner, the begin and end dates. It has those specific days within each calendar. Looking at calendar option B, it looks very similar to A, and it has all of the components with one significant change. Highlighted in this change is a floating professional learning collaboration day, which may either fall on August 11th, and you'll see that that has a green triangle around it. That is the first day back for staff, or could be the first day back for staff. And the other option is there is a green triangle around January 3rd. Based upon site adult learning needs, this option will allow sites to further personalize instruction as needed by level or building. Each site will develop and share a specific learning plan to support the date they choose. This format honors giving staff by site voice and choice in planning meaningful student experiences. An example of this might be needed here. For example, our secondary sites change programs and classes drastically compared to maybe an elementary third grade classroom who will have the same teacher. So they change subjects in those courses. It might be better suited for our secondary sites to have a collaboration and planning day as they get ready for second semester compared to that of a third grade classroom. So by site and by need, we're looking at that floating option day. What is not presented to you at this time is the Robertson Community School calendar that is currently under construction based upon the goals to meet the learning needs of that unique schedule. That calendar will be included in the recommendation when we come back to you on December 8th. Yes?
The only difference is this floating day in August and January. That's the only.
That's the only difference. And based upon input from the groups that we've had, we've landed on these two options right now. So.
And can I assume that that's a bad thing to do, that the teachers prefer B? Because it gives them more flexibility.
It gives them more flexibility. We do want to make sure that we have input as we want to have even further discussion now that we've landed on this. What we haven't gone back to is say, now that we've landed on these two options, what's your input when it's down to these two choices? Because it started with multiple choices in that sense, and it's still a work in progress. So we're going to go back again with the teacher organization and with the administration representation and with the student and parent organization and just say, now that we've landed on these two, which is the best, and what can we pull off as an administration in supporting that best fit?
And so this is the first time you're presenting this to us. Before we vote on it,
that is
you
correct.
Would give us those answers that you're going to seek, right?
That is correct. So this is a first read, and the calendar process requires it's a two-read selection, and when push comes shove, the board ultimately what's the word, big word I'm looking for, adopts a formal calendar, but we want to give you those recommendations.
I also want to say I really appreciate the changes that you've made even in the last couple of years. It's so much easier when you put those days off on Fridays than when you randomly put them places historically.
Yes.
Not blaming anybody, just saying. And so it's already been so improved, but I also want to say that what I appreciate is your collaboration, coordination with places like Missouri State. And not just because I work there now, but it just makes everybody's life easier if there is coordination, so I appreciate you keeping that in mind.
When I found out you were there, I made it from the 5th call to the 2nd call, so it moved up. So it's all good. Perfect.
Well, and thank you very much. Chris Craig told me to come here with some purpose in mind. They all intend to follow you. Like, you are
yes.
the leader in this. That's what he told me. He said, we follow, but give us 2 years notice.
Yes, and I talked to Chris today and about that same thing as well as a couple of weeks ago. So, very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this specific calendar B option? Okay. Just so you're aware, for either A or B, because they're roughly the same start dates, we did look around our neighboring districts as well. Nixa is starting around August 16th. Ozark and Republic are planning. They're still in developmental phase as well, I believe, but they're starting around August 11th. So we're within the same basic windows. And so they'll end between May 11th and, 19th and 26th, just as we are. So we're about the same with our comparable districts there. Okay.
A little later than the last couple of years. There's always a time when you cycle, right? You end up jumping a week, and this is kind of that year for us that we think it's the time to go ahead and jump.
We also like to start on a Wednesday or Thursday. We find that we are more popular with teachers that way, and that's always a good thing.
Well, it also gives the children a chance to deal with their shock.
Yes.
Getting back into
Right, to go home and sleep well.
Yes.
Another thing that the input from all committees that they really appreciate is the 2-week winter break, a full 2-week winter break instead of just a few days there, so. In looking ahead, I have just some snapshots there for you of the 2017-18 and 18-19. This is the purpose of planning these is to align our direction and calendars within the community, as well as learning organizations, especially our secondary education sites, higher ed sites. While the start and end dates are important to look at, they're most interested in spring break and aligning those dates, since we have a number of staff that work there, they have their children go there, and we also have student teachers that are a big part of our system, and we need to incorporate, and a number of our students also go to OTC and these other institutions for extra or dual credit opportunities, so we want to make sure and be aligned. So we want to plan this out, and they are anxiously waiting to hear from me. I've had calls from Evangel. OTC always waits until us, but Evangel, Drury, and Missouri State to see where we're at 3 years out. The school board must conduct an annual meeting, a public meeting, specific to school calendar input if the school begins more than 10 days before the first Monday in September. If you go back and look at the calendar, we are starting 13 days before that first Monday in September. So as a board, you'll be required to have that annual input meeting. And at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
So we will be adopting just the next year calendar, but the 2 years further out are just context and just kind of help to see this in the long range.
Right, and we don't see usual big movement from those, and in working with collaboration just so they can plan the same thing. We only adopt 1 year at a time, but we can paint a picture of where we're going.
I think that's smart.
So next meeting, we'll start with a calendar hearing. Before we can vote on that, we would have to have that take place, so that would kick off our December meeting, and then we would turn into regular business, and then our recommendation will be ready at that time. So if you have feedback along the way, please let Jay
We would
or
love
myself
feedback from the board on those A or B choices, and to put together our final recommendation, which would come December 8th.
So when do you want to hear back from us? If we have questions or comments, when?
Anytime, I would.
Finalizing.
Yes, so if December 8th, I think that we would like to finish up all conversations probably by that December 1st, December 2nd area. So let's just call it December 1, so that we can include that and get that wrap up as we get ready to bring it to you again.
So will we receive the input you received from the teachers groups and such before you want to hear back from us? Because I'm waiting to hear what everybody else wants. Does that make sense?
Sure. So right, and so what I will do when I come back to you is share all of that input, and that's what brings together the final recommendation. If you are interested in specific groups saying this is what they desire, I am happy to share that.
I would be interested in anyone you asked.
Okay.
I'm not picking which one I like best. Sit
Sure.
here if you think that
Sure.
I am not. Okay, like them all.
Like them all. Very good. Love the commitment. Perfect. Any other questions?
Okay, so we're clear on by December 1, any questions or input we have for you, and then you will be bringing a final recommendation and why you're recommending that to us on December 8th for approval.
Correct.
So we will be acting on it December 8th.
You'll be acting on
That's
this.
our one combined meeting. That's why December 8th
correct.
is such a big meeting, because that's our one combined.
Yes, you'll be acting on. The nice thing about this, I think we are about 3 months ahead of what we have done in the past years, and I think that's just wise on our part, and especially as we are looking also at our summer school calendars and schedules and all of that. Our employees need to know what they can plan for if they're planning on taking some breaks, if they're planning on working and supporting the needs of their own students and children, and so I think it's just a good process to have, and it follows suit with what many of our counterpart districts do in Columbia, in Kansas City, and St. Louis. They do an earlier adoption too, so we're we think it's the right thing to do. I appreciate Dr. Dawson's support on this as well, and so any feedback that you have, feel free to send to me, as well as carbon copy Dr. Dawson, as we have regular conversations about driving what's best for our student learning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Move on to 9.03, Energy Conservation Services. Simbri.
Good evening again. This evening we have provided as an informational item under new business the Energy Conservation Services information. And basically, just to point out to you that we did launch a request for proposal process. And the purpose of this energy conservation RFP is to identify ways that we could become more efficient in using our resources when it comes to utilization of energy. And the focus of this particular RFP is not driven by increases in capital expenditures. Sometimes there are efforts in systems where you would bring in various capital outlay components and change the energy usage in that manner. This is focused on behavior modification. And it's not only individual behavior modification, it's system-wide behavior modification. For example, when you have the right resources in terms of FTE or other resources available to you, and in this particular situation that could be represented by a team of engineers that we would have access to for analyzing our data, you can effect change in a major way that can result in savings. As an example, assessing the HVAC usage. Sometimes a system may report to you that it's off when no one is occupying the building, but in fact, when you have someone go physically check that out, there can be control issues or programming issues where that system is indeed on. And that type of savings can be significant. Another example would be in analyzing the data with regard to how our systems come on or load up. If all units start up at one time, that creates a spike in energy consumption, which can be at a higher price point, whereas if it is a gradual increase in energy or in the process of those units coming on, then that can result in some significant savings as well. So again, the behavior is a system-wide analysis and tapping into resources that a company would provide to us to support our internal teams. We let the RFP October 15th. The deadline for responding was November 12th, and interviews are being conducted this week. We've identified a team of leaders throughout the system that include both the instructional side as well as the operational side, and those team members will identify a recommendation, and we will be bringing this to you for consideration at the December 8th meeting. I can also share with you, in my previous district, I did experience a similar process, and through that evaluation process learned that in a number of systems they were able to save between $30,000 to $50,000 per month in energy consumption in real dollars. Those dollars, of course, we could be redirecting into our classrooms and supporting our teachers and our students, and that's what this is all about.
Very exciting what you just said.
I know.
You know how you're not always exciting? Well, that was
I
exciting.
know.
So this is a one-time evaluation, or this is a continual?
It would be a continuing effort. This RFP would identify a company that would assist us in this effort and would result in
check in over
ongoing
time.
Yes, there are systems, not only in Missouri, and when I say systems, I mean public education systems, not only in Missouri, but also in other states that over a period of time have saved an estimated $10 million. It depends on the size of the system, obviously, and whatever efforts were already in place before the company comes in to do this, but we anticipate that it will definitely save us money in the system.
How many firms are we currently interviewing?
We actually had responses from 3 firms, and one is out of Missouri, one is out of Kansas, and one has a home office in Texas. And this is something that these firms do on a nationwide basis. And I've not personally reviewed the responses yet, and the criteria was established in the RFP, and the team members will evaluate these firms based on that criteria.
So you will bring a recommendation to us at our December 8th meeting. Stay there.
I will hang out.
9.04, custodial services RFP update.
Yes. This information is presented again. We plan on bringing a recommendation to you at the December 8th meeting. Well, actually, I'm sorry, if I may retract that. We would have been bringing a recommendation to you at the December 8th meeting, but for the results of the committee interview process. I'll remind you that back in September, we asked you for an extension to the Aramark contract for custodial management services, and that extension takes us through January 31, 2016. We needed some additional time to ensure that the RFP was launched in an appropriate manner and that we could fit it into the workload of the teams that would be engaged. And at that time, we anticipated that we would form a committee and review the applications and come back with a recommendation with regard to continuing to outsource the management services for custodial services within our system. The Aramark company has served our system since July of 2001. Prior to that, we had an agreement with ServiceMaster that was for about a 5-year period, and our annual cost for the agreement with Aramark is just in excess of $500,000. And that provides for us not only a director for the program, an operational manager, a training manager, and a clerical team member, but it also comprehensively provided supplies throughout the system. So that's a big part of that spend. At this time, we have a recommendation from the committee that was again comprised of operational and instructional leaders who interviewed. They received 4 proposals and reviewed the information that was presented in each of them, prepared a cost-benefit analysis, and the recommendation from the committee would be that we bring this service in-house and no longer outsource the management of custodial services. That's a big change for us, as noted in the length of time that we've been outsourcing. We believe that we can do this at a cost-neutral, in a cost-neutral manner for the system, and that the benefits primarily will be that we can have continuous service and synergy between the leaders who oversee all the operations within the district from a facility and grounds perspective, as well as the cleanliness of the buildings. And the committee also indicates that they believe that while we have tremendous support from our custodial teams working in the buildings and that they're doing a phenomenal job, that there will be increased morale and an increase in performance as well. One of the other highlights I would provide to you is you know, or perhaps you don't, I'll speak to you, Ms. Patterson. We do outsource our nutrition services program as well. And that is a distinct, different division of the Aramark services that are provided. We believe that there are significant benefits relative to the federal and state regulations that have to be managed in the nutrition services area. I would say to you that if when we go through this process, at the time that we're doing the RFP for nutrition services, that would be part of that cost-benefit analysis as well. So we've looked at all the factors with regard to this opportunity and believe that the right decision would be to bring it in-house.
Questions or comments? So our next step is?
Well, the next step would be that internally we would post the position, and our focus at this time would be relative to hiring the lead position who would oversee the administration of the custodial teams. And then that person who is hired would have opportunity to engage in the other staff members that would be employed to support. We currently, I should mention, we have currently approximately 178 custodial team members in that department. And additionally, we have a dispatch administrative assistant, and we have 5 district supervisors who directly engage with the team members in the buildings. And so from a continuous service standpoint, we do not believe there will be a challenge. And Mr. Scott Wendt, our Executive Director of Operations, will work through that transitional period with the team. Yes?
So another thing you mentioned was that a good portion of that budget is that they also supply the supplies. So
Right.
are we also going to let the person we choose to be in charge make those decisions, or is that part of this?
That person would definitely be engaged to a high level and also would partner with our purchasing department. We have a number of cooperatives that we can access that will provide us with buying power that, while it may not reach the levels that Aramark has been able to attain, we believe that it will be very comparable and we'll be able to stay within the budget in that regard.
I just see this as the biggest difference of our 178 current custodians and 5 supervisors. They will then, the 5 supervisors will be reporting to a district employed.
Correct.
Director, or whatever you call that person, rather than the Aramark.
That is
director.
correct. That's correct.
They are more comfortable with that. Or
We
seems
think
to
there
be,
are
or-
opportunities for improvement in many areas, and this is one of those. And it's part of our cost analysis, our identification of, are we spending our resources to the most advantage? And sometimes that means you still spend the same amount, but the benefit that is gleaned from that is more far-reaching. I will also comment that I did check with, I have a cohort of friends that work in similar roles as me, and check just to see who out there is outsourcing custodial services. And I received probably 20 responses, and this would be throughout the state of Missouri. Some, obviously, we're the largest district in Missouri, but some very large systems, and in each instance, except for 2, they are handling this in-house, the management piece of that.
So we don't vote on that?
No, this is
Just
information.
Contract will
It is,
expire,
it is a big change.
other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
We wanted to ensure that you were fully
It's
aware of
just
it,
informational.
and the public as well, that this will be a service that will be changing. We'll put out a communication to our internal teams as well.
Let me just add, I was here when we did that, all of those things you talked about, and as well as some other outsourcing that we've done. And I think each time there were 2 considerations. One was we did not feel like we had the expertise in-house to do the things that they could offer us. And secondly, even if we spent that much money, we still wouldn't be able to do the same things. These contracts come up at least 3 years, I think, 3 to 5 years
Sometimes
is
5.
usually is when it's done. And those are reviewed at that time with all of the ones that we outsource. We used to do everything. When I started we didn't outsource anything, nothing. Not personnel, not food service, and each time that was with a somewhat difficult process to outsource that expertise, but at the same time there were things not happening within the district, so that raised concerns. I think our buildings are spotless when I go in. I really do not I've not walked in a building that I felt like there was an issue with. But I also know that there are other, with our maintenance, with our buildings and grounds, that these people could be working together better to serve our district and our students. So to me, as long as it's cost neutral and we can hire the people internally with the same or better management and leadership abilities, then that's what we ought to be doing every time one of these outsourced contracts come up. And I don't know what's happened in the past, but how long has this been, this last one?
Well, this has been for 15 years.
Yes, yeah, but the last time we did it was 5 years ago.
Right, we had a.
So, I mean, 5 years is a long time that things can happen that you need to definitely take a look at it. So I know why we don't have to vote on it, because it's not a contract. So I just think that's what we ought to do with each one of those that we outsource, and we've never outsourced our buses. And every time we've looked at that numerous times and said, would that be better? And we came up with the answer, no, we can provide it in-house and do it. And so to me, that's just the job that we ought to be doing. And so if you're saying we can do the job as well or better, and you're hoping better at the same cost, then to me, that's what we ought to be striving for every time.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10, unfinished business, SPED software contract. If you'll recall, our Special Services Director, Phyllis Wolfham, shared information at our November 3rd study session regarding the Rethink Alternative Curriculum and Behavior Tracking for Special Education. Do we have Dr. Jim, anyone here to speak, or are we've had time to ask questions, as I think some of us have, and get some great answers. So at this time, we need to take action on approving this contract. So do I have unless there is anyone need discussion or comments on that? So the floor is open for questions or comments. If not, do I have a motion that the board approves the software contract as presented to us at our study session? And do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Jill Patterson, do I have a second?
Second.
Andy Bush, and so we do need to vote. I think this is one we will all be excited to hear how well that implementation goes. So
Yes.
we will. Okay, moving on to, yes, we were all voted. We need to go, thank you. Okay, moving on to 11 public comments to address non-agenda items. At this time, the board allows 3 minutes for anyone to address the board on any topic not related to our printed agenda. Once again, we ask individuals to fill out a form and let us know that they would like time. Mrs. Luton, do we have any? Okay, we do not have any this evening, so we'll move on to report from administration. We're doing things just a little different in that we're going to start with cabinet reports, and so each of our cabinet members will take a few minutes, and please feel comfortable to stay where you are and provide a little update on what's going on in your world. Do you want to start that, Dr. Jungman, or are you going to start?
We'll start with Mr. McKenna.
Sounds great. Well, just a little bit of an update for you on the things that we're working on in the world of HR and our people initiatives. You will recall from a prior update to the board that we are working right before the holiday break to get out a survey around supervisor effectiveness. So asking employees about the relationships they share with their supervisors. They're also providing feedback about other leaders throughout the system that support them. So the entire leadership team will have the opportunity to provide feedback to the 4 cabinet members about our effectiveness and to their direct supervisor. And then principals will be asked to provide feedback to a sample of members of the executive team so that we don't overwhelm our principals with a bunch of surveys there. We're sampling in that area. So that's a great opportunity for us to make sure that we are fulfilling our goal of creating engaging and relevant and personal learning and working environments for students and staff members as well. Also, in December, we will do our system-wide climate and culture assessment. So it's the second round of that. We'll provide the board an update on that data as it compares to our benchmark data from last year as well. So that's a good opportunity for our staff to provide feedback. Also, we're working on Focus Area 2 refinement. So you heard from the HR leadership team and myself about the strategic initiatives in Focus Area 2. There are 11 of those. We've gathered your feedback. We've also gathered the feedback of the senior leadership team. We're in the process of refining all of that now, making changes, and we'll come back to the board in the spring with an update on Focus Area 2. We'll have measures at that time. We'll also have action plans, and we'll talk about the progress we're making toward those measures. And lastly, a fun opportunity for you to get involved if you want to. Thursday is our Benefits and Wellness Expo. This is the opportunity for all of our current employees, our retirees, and dependents, almost a little over 7,000 people potentially on the health plan that can take part in this. And this is the opportunity for them to learn more about the benefits and wellness opportunities offered to them. That'll be here at KAC in this room and the two adjoining rooms. The theme is Star Wars. So you can come with your Jedi lightsaber and your Darth Vader mask and learn more about the opportunities that our employees have to stay healthy and well as they continue to work for students every day.
What time?
Did I not tell you the time? 3:30 to 6:30, am I right? Yes, 3:30 to 6:30 here at KAC.
Are like special prizes if you show up with your Darth Vader mask?
You'll have to come to find out, Mrs. Patterson.
I am not coming to that. I will hear from you later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Obi-Wan. I want to first of all thank Scott Wendt, Dr. Harold, Mrs. Wolfram for successfully communicating, coordinating, collaborating on our successful move to Sunshine office building this week. If you get the opportunity, it's amazing to see all these teams now in open concept, working in collaborative partnerships. When you walk up there, it kind of feels like Residence Hall move-in day. So everybody's like, hey, can I borrow that? Could you have this? So it's really exciting and powerful in that space. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Hackenworth and Dr. Steiger and their team are starting and planning, designing SPS Imagine Secondary. So you were probably part of that process last year when it was Imagine Elementary. This is going to start on November 30th. It will involve a number of our secondary leaders experiencing a number of things and designing and thinking about what's the possibility for secondary education. So we look forward to their feedback and their report in the future. Also, summer school planning is in full swing. It's Explore, it's Make Your Mark. We are looking at new designs to engage more students in creating more collaborative community partnerships to really, with the idea of expanding student experiences. So this is, as you know, summer school becomes our incubator for lots of ideas. Their team is frantically working out and dreaming right now, and they will be coming to you with a report in the future about what that's going to look like, and we're anxiously awaiting. Lastly, I would just tell you we have started a new partnership with GO CSD, that's Greater Ozarks Cooperative School District. We talk a lot about collaboration and breaking out of silos. This is a 19-member school district collaborative project all in the Southwest region. It's about collective advocacy up at the Capitol. It's about collective learning together when we started to regionalize professional development. It's about collective purchasing power. So this is a new adventure for all of our school districts in Southwest. I think Dr. Jungman says it well. We can compete on Friday night, but there's no need to compete for these other resources and for this training because we're all here for kids. So excited to report those updates from the learning team.
In addition to our RFPs that I've referenced this evening, we still have the facility master planning request for proposal out there, and the bids are due December 2nd. So teams will be formed to go through that interview process and identify best fit for our system with regard to building a comprehensive facility master plan from which we can do financial planning. Next month, at the December 8th meeting, I plan to provide to you a list of names for that committee that needs to be identified for the naming of the Sunshine Office building. And per board policy FF, that committee is comprised of students and staff members and also community members. And I think the policy is primarily designed for school buildings in mind, but certainly this building and the people in it are supporting our schools to a high level, and we'll go through that process with you. So that recommendation will come forward. We started a new capital planning process in Springfield Public Schools, and I'm excited about the work that teams will be doing. We'll be receiving input from our building principals as well as other leaders in the system and developing a prioritization of all the needs in the system. It will complement the work of the facility master planning process ultimately, but in the meantime, we need to continue to take care of our buildings and ensure that all is well and providing the instructional spaces we need to. So you'll be receiving additional information about that as we journey forward, and that is the gateway into starting that fiscal 2016-17 budget planning process. So we will be talking about that in January. The financial audit for the last fiscal year, 2014-15, will be presented to you for approval at the December 8th meeting. Diana Klosterman with Westbrook & Company will be present for that, and she will not only talk about some of the specific data within the financial information, but also talk about opportunities for improvement for us as we continue to review where we may have some gaps and what we can do to close those gaps. The finance and operations strategic planning work is going on behind the scenes so that we'll be geared up and ready for a presentation to you in January. And lastly, I mentioned this to you previously with regard to the facility management assessment, if you will, and we are currently working on a scope of services, and we'll be providing you additional information regarding an RFP to seek assistance in assessing our use of labor hours, how we can work more efficiently in that regard. And that summarizes finance and operations.
Quick question. At our Missouri School Board Association regional meeting, we had, for those of you, I think we were all there, I think, Jill, you attended the PTA legislation event that night, but we were in Bolivar, and we had a superintendent from another district stop by to compliment the great work that's going on with a new, it's not Go Caps, but it's Go, what is it, Carol? Go ASBO, and she can tell you what that stands for, but complimented how amazing that there had been a meeting that day of this new group, which is facilitated by Ms. Embry, and how much that was going to be helpful to all the surrounding districts. So you didn't mention that, so can you want to throw that in?
That is the Greater Ozarks Association of School Business Officials, and we did form that group this past June. It's an opportunity for us to come together and collaborate and share with one another ideas on using our resources more wisely and ensuring that we stay compliant with those board policies and statutes that we all encounter.
So how many of you are part of that group?
There were, originally there were approximately 40 people, I would say, and because of the diverse enrollment levels of the school districts in this area, it's anywhere from a bookkeeper to a superintendent participating in that conversation. And we
wear a lot of hats.
Yes, absolutely, and especially some of our smaller school superintendents, it's very beneficial for them, and that's what has been expressed to me. So people are very excited about this opportunity to come together and help one another. And as Mike referenced, John says we need to not compete, but help one another and use our resources wisely, and we do that.
Go ASBO. We got a lot of go.
Greater Ozarks.
I'm not even going to say that. It could go different ways. So,
sorry.
going on or something. No, nothing's going on in SPS. So, no, busy team doing incredible work. So I just appreciate all the work that's going on and your continued support of the work. I would just say a couple other things that are on our radar and that I'm participating in. Obviously, continue senior leadership development. That's a big piece of our work at the executive level, and we have great teams doing wonderful work. Some of the experiences that they've done to visit other sites in our building, to learn from each other, taking teachers with them, has been very beneficial. And now we're building up kind of a second quarter experience and third quarter experience for that leadership team. We've also got student advisory groups going on, our senior open forum, which is a senior citizen group that I'll meet with on Friday. The student advisory group meets Thursday, so we've got a lot of dialogue, trying to continue to collaborate with different representatives to make sure the system's meeting everyone's needs as well as humanly possible. I would also just move straight into legislative update if that's okay. Kathy's working hard on my schedule right now to get all of our local delegation in to do a one-on-one site visit with myself, talk about our legislative platform between now and the holiday, or between now and the opening of session. We did that last year, thought it was a great opportunity. We'll also have before the December meeting, so just pack a lunch because it's going to be a while, because we have the reception for legislators that the board hosts that afternoon, I think around 4 o'clock, is that correct? On the 8th, yes. So it starts at 4 and it keeps on going. So make sure you have that locked into your calendars, make it if you can. We hope to have a good representation where we'll chat with them, host them, and talk about our legislative platform. And 4 o'clock, please, if you can make it at all possible. So.
And we have our combined meeting.
Combined meeting starts at 5:30. That's it for me.
Okay, moving on to board comments. I know some of you have been out and about. We've all either attended a Missouri School Board regional meeting with our Southwest cohort, and or a PTA legislative meeting, and maybe visits to buildings. Anyone have anything you want to share about what you've been doing?
I went to Central today in the pouring rain, and they had a bunch of teachers receiving their devices. So I got to watch their excitement.
Awesome.
It was cool. That's all.
Bruce, anything? Okay. Annie?
I'm
I hate to call
overwhelmed.
your
Yeah,
name.
I can't.
I know.
It's okay. I have nothing to report.
Okay.
Publicly.
The only thing, I guess I'll just mention quickly, is I had an opportunity to spend some time at Wilson's Creek. I taught a little unit on character ed to 5th graders, and I think I learned more from that experience than they learned from me. I heard some amazing, fascinating stories about students and their perception of and on random acts of kindness and things that students have done for, or others have done for them and they have done for others. And we got some, one young man in particular started a story, and the more his classmates oohed and awed, the bigger the story got. Until, wow, we were way out there real quick on his random act of kindness. So it was a great experience for me. And once again, getting into the buildings with the kids is such a great reminder why we're doing what we're doing. So that was great fun. So if nothing else, we'll just talk about our upcoming meetings. I think we've just heard of some additional opportunities tonight. On Thursday, this Thursday, Parker, from 3:30 to 6:30, the benefits wellness opportunity extravaganza. Star Wars, okay. And then Mike, you mentioned November 30. Is that, are we invited to that? The secondary Imagine? Okay.
Just secondary group.
Okay. All right, so.
We'll be happy to share with you the results.
Okay.
No, you're not invited.
Not invited, okay.
It's a long
I
process.
think that was
A lot of words say no.
You're always invited, let me tell you.
Next time you can say no, and that's fine.
You're always welcome, you may not be invited.
Okay, then we have a big meeting on December 8th, our combined December meeting, starting 4 o'clock legislative meeting, and then 5:30 a regular meeting. Kathy, would you mind if some of these dates pop up that we need to keep on our radar? Will you send us an invite or a happening but not invited? maybe, no. Happening, but not invited.
You don't have to tell me if I'm not invited.
Only if you're invited.
Okay. Okay, good. Anyone have any other upcoming meetings that you want to remind us? It's hard to track all these. Okay. Here we are, 13.03. New board member sworn in by, oh, am I there? Or, okay.
Yeah, it's time. So
By
exciting.
Mrs. Kathy Luton, board secretary. Kathy.
Make it official. There you go.
Okay, we just do it right here?
That's the spot.
You need to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Missouri.
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri,
And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of school director
the duties of school director
and for the school district of Springfield R12,
and for the school district of Springfield R12,
County of Greene, State of Missouri,
County of Greene, State of Missouri,
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Never set up for the vote yet. I tried, but it didn't. But you can just go, hey.
Yeah, I think all we're voting is
To adjourn.
close.
Well, Mr. Lee, do you have anything on your agenda?
No, we're in a plaid shirt.
Welcome.
Thank you. There's a deja vu all
That's
around.
for sure.
Okay, we will move on unless we have any other comments, but this is our plus delta of our segment of our meeting. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have 2 or 3 pluses I'm going to add tonight. One may have a few teardrops on it, but that's okay. And of our meeting tonight, what worked, we did receive, I think, 4 pluses from our study session. So that's good to see that we are meeting the needs of all our board members. And don't forget, if there's anything that we need to improve and we can work on, please list those as well. So if you'll take a minute and have your plus deltas ready and stick them on the board when we're finished, then we'll move on. At this time, we're moving on to executive session. The board does need to meet in executive session following this meeting to discuss personnel matters as provided in sections 610.0213 and 13 RSMO. So do I have a motion that the board meet in executive session?
So moved.
Thank you. Bruce made a motion. Do I have a second?
I second that.
And Jill seconds. And so at this time, we need to vote to move into executive session, and Jean will vote with a, what, do you need a head nod, or you need a hand up, or a verbal?
Aye.
Perfect.
It's controversial.
It's a tough one, wasn't it?
Okay, and motion carries, and we will go into exec session, and at this time, this meeting is adjourned. And thank you all for staying the duration of our meeting. Thank you.